So I got an email recently from a really awesome subscriber named Charlene. She recently visited China and really loved it. And she wants to go back and maybe even move to China. But as many of you guys know, a lot of the jobs that are available to foreigners in China have to do with teaching English. And she told me that she suffers from an intense fear of speaking to large groups. And I'm sure she's not the only one. I know a lot of you guys are interested in China, and there's gotta be a handful of you guys out there who can definitely benefit from this video, and maybe it will inspire you to face your fear, to get a teaching job in China, and to go experience life in China and see what it's really like to live there. I'll have some links up above and down below to some of my favorite China travel vlogs. I did a lot of China videos while I was there, so go watch those if you are curious. The fear of public speaking, it is extremely common. It actually has a name. It's Glossophobia. It's also called speech anxiety, and it's considered a form of social anxiety disorder. I deal with a lot of anxiety as well, as many of you guys know, and I faced all those fears to go to China, so I know you guys can do it too. And the 10 tips that I'm about to give you are going to help big time. I'll also be giving you guys some resources so that after you watch this video, if you're still not feeling like quite there, I'll have a bunch of resources linked down below as well to really awesome sites and articles that'll keep you going on this train of thought and hopefully inspire you to face your fear to do the things you love. That's what this channel is all about. Face your fear to do the things you love. So let's get right into the 10 tips. Number 1, embrace the role of speaker. Most people who fear public speaking will get up in front of a group and the mindset is, let's just get through this. Try to not show people that I'm afraid, let's resist. But the issue with this is that you're ignoring your own thoughts and your own feelings, and it's better to embrace those thoughts and feelings and embrace the real role of speaker. Embracing your fears is hard. It's easier said than done, but it's possible and I know you can do it. So it's really important to embrace the role of speaker, to fully experience what you're doing, learn from it, improve, and be able to pat yourself on the back at the end of the day. Number 2, slow down. Even though your urge is to hurry through everything, get through it as quick as you can, when you hurry too much when you're speaking, it can actually interfere with your breathing, and your breathing is really tied into your anxiety. I've learned this from my online therapy that I've been doing. If you're curious about that, I'll have a link down below. It is called BetterHelp. It's awesome. If you hurry through, it's shortening your breathing, and when you shorten your breathing, it can make you feel more anxious and more afraid, and it can exacerbate this fear of public speaking and make it worse. So I think it really is important to slow down a bit when you're speaking. Speak just a little bit slower than you normally would. Number 3, there's a little bit of controversy on which way to go on this, and that is this issue of ignoring the audience or not ignoring the audience. Personally, I feel that it's best to not ignore the audience. I think when you ignore the audience, you're not only ignoring the reality of what's happening, but you're ignoring the fact that you are in a speaking position, speaking to a large group, and by ignoring that fact, you're burying yourself further into your brain. And your brain, when you are speaking, if you are afraid of speaking, is in a fearful, negative place. So it's not really the best idea, in my opinion, to ignore the audience because you're gonna retract into your own brain where you're full of fear right now. But if you embrace the audience and maybe pick out a few people from the crowd who look nice and kind, you might actually be able to better embrace the experience and again be able to pat yourself on the back at the end of the day, because the reality is you did just speak to a large group of people, you were afraid, you faced your fear, and you did an awesome job. Number 4, it's okay to be afraid. If you lie to yourself about being afraid of public speaking, you are hindering your ability to recognize your sense of accomplishment when it's all said and done. Instead, it's best to face the fear, realize that you are afraid. This is in your head. It's a mental health situation that you're dealing with, and it's okay. You're gonna get better with practice. It will get easier as time goes on. There are so many people that are afraid of public speaking that there are probably a lot of people in the audience that you're speaking to who are just grateful that they're not up there. They're probably just thinking, wow, they're doing a great job, or they're really holding themselves together. I would be freaked out. Honestly, when I go and I'm like seeing some kind of public speech happening, I'm not in the mode of criticizing the way that they're giving the speech. I'm mostly focused on the content. I mean, something really remarkably awful would have to happen. And even then, I usually give the speaker the benefit of the doubt. People aren't out there to criticize you as much as you might think they are. I think a lot of that stems from this fear and this like circle of negative thought that you've got going in your head. head. Most people are nice. And if they're not nice, then who cares? You don't want to be friends with them anyways. Anyways, number 5. Whatever it is that you are talking about, you are going to feel so much better if you educate yourself thoroughly beforehand on whatever the topic is, if you prepare really well, and if you practice your speech. So in the context of speaking to a group of students teaching English as a second language, you're probably focusing on a topic for that day. So let's say you're focusing on talking about the weather. Obviously, if you're a native English speaker, it's going to come pretty naturally to you. But what might help you is if you look up a couple lessons online or a couple videos online of people who are teaching the same subject so that you feel prepared in the moment. Read a couple different lesson plans, read some different articles, practice a couple ways of explaining things. And actually, the number one thing that I found super helpful, because I was anxious about teaching ESL before I did it. And the thing that I found super helpful was going on YouTube and looking up foreigners teaching English in China. And watching these videos really helped me to actually place myself in that context and get more comfortable with the idea of teaching English to a group of people. It made me feel more prepared, and it helped me to know how to practice in order to accomplish my goal of teaching a good lesson. Number 6, visualize success. I've heard people go as far as saying visualization is the secret to life, and I don't completely disagree. I know from personal experience that visualization helps me big time. Visualization is just the act of trying to imagine a positive future happening for you in whatever instance you're talking about. So if you're about to go in and teach an ESL lesson, just put yourself in that mindset of like, you are teaching the lesson, you're doing a good job, the kids are having fun, they're really starting to grasp the material you're teaching them, and you leave with a sense of accomplishment at the end of the day. Obviously, that lesson didn't just happen, but in your mind it did, and it was a positive experience. That can be hugely beneficial to the success of your actual lesson. It can put kind of a positive spin where there might otherwise be fear. Number 7, breathing techniques. Now, the best one that my therapist ever recommended to me was the 4-7-8 breathing method. And actually, I had a subscriber, one of my patrons, thank you, Jesse, you're awesome. He told me that that is actually a breathing method that they use for like military members who are on the front lines, like in really stressful battle type situation. They actually encourage them to use breathing techniques because it really does trick your brain into being a little bit calmer. So the way it works is you breathe in for 4 counts, you hold it for 7 counts, and you breathe out for 8 counts. And with a little practice, you will definitely see this changing the way you feel in a situation. So if you get the opportunity, show up a little bit early into your classroom and do your breathing techniques in the classroom so that your brain is in this like calmer mindset. Because with breathing techniques, you might actually trick your brain into feeling calmer than it wants to be. Number 8, silence is okay. Silence doesn't indicate failure. It doesn't indicate that the audience doesn't like what you're doing. It doesn't indicate that you're not doing a good job. Silence is part of speech. And for some reason, I know that when you have a fear of public speaking, you're petrified of the idea of silence. And even like half a second of silence can feel like, oh my gosh, I just screwed it up. In your brain, silence might feel super awkward. Just know and remind yourself, even make a mantra if you have to. Ooh, mantra, I didn't even add that to this list. You can make a public speaking mantra. I think speakers are always more sensitive to silence than audience members. And it might help you too to watch some speeches, especially like political speeches. There's so much silence. Anyways, number 9, when it's all over, recognize your success. Pat yourself on the back, realize you did an awesome job. If you overall feel like you didn't do an awesome job, find just even one little thing that you did well and get your brain to focus on that. If you're focusing on something positive that happened during your public speaking session that you just did, it's gonna help you to have a more positive image of what it's like to be a speaker. If your fear is so petrifying that you can't even get yourself to do a speech, if you did one at all, whether it was the worst speech, if you need someone to celebrate with you, I'm so there. But yeah, celebrate your success, celebrate what you just did, and realize that facing fears is not easy and you just did it and you can keep going. And lastly, number 10, after you have pat yourself on the back, realized your accomplishments, it is time to think about a few ways that you can improve for next time. If you're thinking with constructive criticism, not like, why did I let that silence go so long? Why did I twirl my hair? Like stuff like that. Don't think like that. Think, next time my goal is to play with my hair less. It could be little things. It could be big things. Maybe you said too many times and it really bothered you afterwards. Try to not let it bother you, but recognize that it's something you can improve on and you're going to get better. If you are constantly learning and improving, you are going to become a better speaker. You're going to feel more confident. If you want more information on how you can become a better public speaker, especially if your goal is to overcome it in order to be an ESL teacher so you can live in China, first, I would definitely go watch the video that I have linked down below about the things that I wish I knew before I taught at ESL. I would look into cognitive behavioral therapy. If you can afford to go to a cognitive behavioral therapist, that is awesome. Otherwise, there's all kinds of resources online about it. Essentially what it is kind of retraining your brain so that when you're afraid of something, you kind of retrain your brain into the way that you want to feel. It's kind of like taking back control of your thoughts and of the way that your brain processes certain situations. Katie Morton has a really good video on it that I will link down below. I would recommend anxietycoach.com. They actually have a page all about overcoming your fear of public speaking and recognizing it as a form of anxiety. I've used anxietycoach.com in the past a lot, and I do recommend it to a lot of people. I'll have that link down below. And lastly is an article on themuse.com, I think it is, and it's all about one person's story of overcoming their fear of public speaking. If you have any tips for people who are afraid of speaking to large groups, or if you used to be afraid of it and you've kind of overcome it, definitely leave a comment down below. If you're headed to China soon, email me, laurenwithoutfear@gmail.com. I actually give personalized recommendations and I respond to every single email. I'd love to help out and I'd love to learn more about your story. It's kind of selfish too, because I want to learn where people are traveling, and it's like real life reality shows. I don't know. Anyways, I need to stop talking. Thank you for watching and I will see you soon. Okay, bye.